Hello Kindred, Longevity Lifestyle Designers. This is Zach here with secretsoflongevity.com. Today I'm going to show you some blood work that I had done in the past. This was over a year ago that I had this done, and I will be making appointments with my own personal family's physician to get some of these tests ordered. I want to get obviously the CBC, which is complete blood count, SMAC, I'm not sure what that stands for, but it includes all the different cholesterol counts, triglycerides, and a wide range of other sort of kidney and liver enzymes and those sorts of things, just to see where you're at and whether you're in the proper ratios of what's needed for optimal health. I also want to eventually get a complete hormonal profile. I probably won't do that for the next time I go to the doctor. I won't be ordering that, but I want to get a complete mineral test. I might have to go to a naturopathic physician for that, but being here in Canada, blood work is covered for me, at least most of it. I can get a vitamin D tested, B12 tested, that's all included, and just regular sort of once per year checkups that I normally get. And a lot of people are anti-physicians, and I am too as well to a certain extent. However, they are useful for ordering these tests, and you know, they can do the routine checkups that I think everyone should get. But of course, when they have recommendations, I don't generally listen to them. But generally, you can find some very open-minded doctors, and it shouldn't be too difficult, and you can get some of these tests done yourself. So I had this test, or actually it's two tests, done right before, or actually right after I got to the Hippocrates Health Institute, and then they repeated the same test at the end. And they do some other testing when you're there, including live blood cell analysis, and obviously check to see if you have high blood pressure, low blood pressure, and then depending on what you have going on, they'll do other further tests to see what's at stake and what's going on with your health. So this was just the basic testing that everyone gets, and it's part of the package deal if you decide to go to the Hippocrates Health Institute at some point. So here's the two tests. This is the one from the 10th. I got there a few days afterwards, and then they do the first blood test, and this is the 25th at the end of my stay, or near the end. And both done in 2009, obviously, in August, and I'll just zoom in on my name here to prove that it's me, martin-kilgour Zach, martin-kilgour Zach. And this column here is the numbers I got for each item, or each item tested, and these are the ideal ranges. And same here, that's what I got. This is the ideal range, and there's a second page on each sheet with just a few things at the top, which I'll show. So I'm not going to go over every single thing, but coming down here, anything that's marked like that, it was high or low. And we'll start with this first one here. AG ratio is a little bit high, 2.3. I can't see the numbers through the view screen, but on the form it says 0.8 to 2.0 is ideal. It was 2.3, so just a little over. And keep in mind, when I first went to the institute, I was doing a raw food diet, but I was doing like way too much dried fruit, a lot of agave, and so there was a few things off balance. And down here, the thing that was low was the hematocrit. That's related to complete blood count, and that was at 40.7, and the ideal is 41 to 53. So that's just like a few decimals off. So overall, there's nothing massively out of balance, and everything else is right in balance, from creatinine, potassium, sodium, all that's perfect. Chloride, carbon, glucose, alkaline phosphatase, it's all right. Cholesterol, triglycerides, HDL, LDL, all of that's in perfect working order. And even on the back here, there isn't anything that was out of balance. It's hard to read, I know. Lymphocytes, these are basically counts of the platelets, the lymphocytes, monocytes, eosinophil. I don't even know what most of the stuff is, to be honest. Well, I know what lymphocytes are, of course. Those are white blood cells. And then over here, after the 2-week period, it was a 3-week stay total, but of course they do the tests a little after you get there and a little before you leave. I actually had more things out of balance after the stay there, and just to say this offhand, if you're doing a pretty intense cleanse, you're going to be having things go out of balance because you're going to have toxins released into the blood, and in the case of cholesterol, you're going to have that drop quite drastically, especially on something that is a somewhat low-fat diet and very high in greens and plant foods. So the high thing here was, again, the AG ratio stayed the same. The LDH was low. LDL cholesterol 68 when it should be ideally 75 to 130. But yes, your cholesterol can be too low. That's interesting to note. Hematocrit still stayed low. And then, of course, everything on this side was fine. So this was just an update to show you guys where I was a year and a half ago. And when I get another test done in the near future, when I show that to you, you can compare it to this video. I will obviously link to this one. And although I won't have the exact same numbers going on, and even the same items, because in Canada the test might be slightly different, it'll look different, there might be some things there that aren't, or there might be extra things that I'm not sure, but that will give me a good idea of what's changed over time. And I keep all my blood tests. I know I have some others around here from even further behind that. I recall from my past, not that I ever had really bad blood tests, but they were worse before. I had things like uric acid out of whack. That was probably coming off of a higher meat diet. I remember that was the case. This is going way back, of course. And then at one point I also had a platelet issue, not enough platelets, but that was just minor, and it corrected itself just over time without really doing anything. But in general, massive problems in blood work can be ameliorated through a raw food diet, and that's always what I recommend for people to look into. If you can get out to one of these institutes like the Tree of Life Center, Hippocrates Health Institute, there's other ones on the West Coast in California and places that I'm not familiar with the names of right offhand, but if you look into raw food retreat centers, there's a wide variety of them out there now. And across the board, they're going to offer some form of testing when you get there and when you leave, if you're staying for a 3-week period, because that's the ideal, obviously. And it can get you off on a start of keeping track of this yourself, or you can just simply start taking and getting regular annual blood tests, and also getting specific tests for things that you might suspect might be a cause of an issue you're certainly starting to face. And it's a really important component of maintaining your health, so that you can optimize either a supplement or herb program, or you can tweak your diet in ways that improve your health for the long term, obviously. So I want to know what your favorite test to get done is, if there's certain ones that are sort of out of the norm that you yourself have done. Post a comment below, because I'm interested in seeing what options are out there. I'm aware of a lot of different types of testing. There's probably the best testing I know of is the spectra cell analysis. I think it's a $400 test. You have to get it done in the US, and you have to send your blood down there, and in Canada you get it sent back up. I'm sure there's something you have to do in terms of getting your blood work cooled or kept on ice and they ship it down there. Not sure how that works, but that might be an additional cost for me being up in Canada. But it's a US company that does it, and it's probably the most accurate nutrient testing that you can have done, because they actually break open the cell wall of the red blood cells in the blood to look at what your blood's actually able to absorb in your diet. So it goes a little bit beyond just seeing what's floating around in your blood, because you can consume anything and it can get into your bloodstream. Even if you have leaky gut, it's just going to end up in your bloodstream. You're going to have stuff floating around in it, and if they see it there in a normal test, which is how they're done, they can say, oh, you've got plenty of this in there. But what matters is if it's getting into the cells. So that's something I would recommend for anyone that's in a position to be able to spend that kind of money on a single test. If not, it can be something that you can aspire to and eventually do, because I think it's a great tool to have available to keep really close focus on what's out of sync in your blood work. So with that, I'm going to say take care and embrace life without limits.